As many, the chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Barnabas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Of course. You didn't need to remind me. You didn't need to remind me. Put my glasses. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I begin, I think that it would be appropriate in my mind tonight, this evening, to start off by channeling the member for Carmichael and say, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to thy sight. Madam Speaker, I thank Almighty God, who is the great architect of the universe, for allowing me to stand here today in another beautiful day, beautiful evening in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Yes, sir.
I stand here, continue to contend, as I always do, that the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is, despite our challenges, is the greatest nation on earth.
Yes, sir.
And I make that statement for one simple reason. Name me a country of 400,000 people that has achieved what we have achieved. And everywhere you go around the world, where Bahamians are, big things are being done. And so I am grateful to Almighty God that He has allowed me to be born in the greatest nation on this earth. Madam Speaker, the member for Angliston, in her conclusion, she said a number of important things, but there are two things in particular that I just wish to mention that I think is very valid. And that is that the critical thinking that we want to encourage our young people to bring to their view, to their aspirations and their belief of what the Commonwealth of the Bahamas needs to be. But I do feel, too, that critical thinking has to be something that, no doubt, needs to be more resonant and more robust in our dialogue about the national affairs of the country. Madam Speaker, I came into politics trying to be every day faithful to some very fundamental things, and I won't suggest that I have a monopoly on that, but since I'm speaking now, and one of those things is that I don't believe in, and this may be politically naive, but I'll say it anyway, I don't believe in attacking people. I believe in attacking ideas and policies and positions. Because the truth is, despite the fact that we may try to suggest some other things, all of us love our country, and there are good people on the other side opposite. I just believe, and the members of the opposite side just believe that they've attached themselves to some bad policies and bad ideas, and I guess they would say the same here. But I say that because often when we start a debate, the choice is never really, does that make sense? Is there a legitimate position being forwarded? It just falls into the baskets and the categories of, all right, they say it, so it don't make sense. And while that may be some good political theater, it's definitely not good for the Bahamian people, Madam Speaker. We have Robert. But Madam Speaker, I want to talk very briefly before I get into some aspects of the fiscal strategy report, about this issue of immigration. And as I do, Madam Speaker, I want to just make a particular point. I remember, well, now that I've gone through two election campaigns, but in particular the last election, when oftentimes the member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador as leader of the opposition, or even on the campaign trail, would say some things. And oftentimes you'd be in discussions, and you know how it is with your supporters, right? They say, oh, he ain't making no sense. He ain't making no sense. I would always say, listen, if you are a student of politics and if you understand politics, sometimes you have to ignore the messenger and listen to the message, because at the end of the day, at different times, what we say reflects what's going on with the Bahamian people and what they feel. And I jump off from that point on this issue of immigration, illegal immigration, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this body that makes up 39 members, members of the Progressive Liberal Party and members of the Free National Movement, will have the distinction this year of presiding over the legislative affairs of our nation in its 50th year of independence. The question, I believe, that history will ask, did this distinction, just stay there? Did we capture the imagination of the Bahamian people? Did we transform our country and made major progress on the issues confronted by our people, issues of real economic empowerment, crime, education, healthcare, and immigration? Madam Speaker, I rise today, as I always do, with my love for the people of St. Barnabas and the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It is that love, Madam Speaker, that comes to speak up front with a sense of urgency on my lips and love for my country and the people in my heart. I offer these words today, moved by the weight of conscience, service to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and duty to the Bahamian people. Madam Speaker, I emphasize that I offer these words not to those who love their party, but those that love their country. I offer these thoughts with the risk of being misinterpreted and my words distorted and mischaracterized as political speak and pandering. But, Madam Speaker, I gladly take that risk this evening. I offer these words as a Bahamian who has been moved by the events of the last few months and the cries of our people, the Bahamian people. I offer this on behalf of future generations of Bahamians and as a parliamentarian whose job it is to echo the voices of the Bahamian people. For my voice as an elected member, Madam Speaker, is not my voice, but the voice for the people of St. Barnabas and the people across the length and breadth of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I do so by the urging of none, but to echo the frustration of our people who have said, enough is enough. Madam Speaker, from the outset, I reject those that view my views as divisive or insightful. The honorable member for Elizabeth said this morning, and she threw caution to the power of our words, which I agree. We must be responsible, but we must not forget the power of our necessary courage to have an honest debate that entrenches and fortifies the Bahamian people in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, that the Bahamian people come first. I am not anti, the leader of the opposition is not anti, this opposition is not anti any group of people or ethnicity. I am unapologetically pro-Bahamian, and we say Bahamians voice in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I have one place where I was born, one place I call home, and one place where I wish to die and be buried, right here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I pledge my allegiance to the flag and to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, for which it stands, one people, united in love and service. Sir Cecil Wallace Whitfield said in a historic speech that democracy and truth are hard and demanding taskmasters, and we are confronted in our democracy and by a truth that political expediency can no longer hide or allow comfort. There comes a time, Madam Speaker, in a nation's history where the people can no longer bear the burden of unfulfilled dreams and unresolved challenges that impact future generations. This is not about which political party you serve. This is not about the FNM or the PLP. This is about country. The illegal immigration crisis is not a new problem, as the member for Angliston just said lastly, But we are faced with a new version of it right now. Shanedon said, if as Bahamians we are not prepared to stand up and fight and defend your own Bahamas, you don't deserve to have it. These words were not literal in its context, Madam Speaker, by Shanedon, but it was more a challenge to all of us to always safeguard and prioritize the interests of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the Bahamian people. The Bahamian people bears no hate or disregard for any group of people. We are a loving people, Madam Speaker. We accept that many attempt to make their way to and through the Bahamas in search of a better way of life. But the fact remains that the Bahamian people deserve a better way of life in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas first. Where else can we go as Bahamians to live our dreams and aspirations if not the Bahamas? Where else can we secure a better future for future generations if not the Bahamas? We must not moved by hate. We must act, Madam Speaker, not moved by hate or any other, but a love of our own people. Bahamians first in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, the Bahamian people feel that not enough is being done. That's not a political statement. I refer to what I said earlier. If you want to forget the messenger for a second, go ahead, because this ain't about me. And again, let me just say this, Madam Speaker. There has been a lot of conversations about the protests and so forth. What we have to be careful of, in my view, is that we don't paralyze the need for us to have a serious discussion about the impact of immigration on the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that we have been dealing with for, I'm 46 years old, 40 years. So there is a space for critical thinking, not buying into any xenophobia, any hatred of any people, but a legitimate discussion as we celebrate our 50 years of independence and on other issues, not just on the immigration issue. But what do we want the Bahamas, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, to be for Bahamians? This is not an isolationist view. At the end of the day, the Bahamian people have to feel that this place that they call home is for them first. And you can get into the weeds of what's happening in certain quarters, but there are thousands of Bahamians that don't necessarily feel that the way that we are conducting the affairs on this issue puts them first. Let me also take this opportunity to say, Madam Speaker, we know, many of us in here, I know I have, been the benefit of a number of persons who have migrated from other countries, particularly our sister Caribbean countries. I wasn't only just taught by Bahamians, and some of the greatest impact, persons who've made the greatest impact on me, they've not just been Bahamians, but been persons who have come to the Bahamas and joined in with the building of the Bahamas in many different ways. So, Madam Speaker, the Bahamian people feel that our nation needs a serious plan, not just a response to what's happening now, but a serious plan about who will we be in the next 50 years relative to all aspects of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I believe, Madam Speaker, that this Parliament has a duty to act, and I do believe it starts with the formation of the Select Committee on Immigration as proposed by the opposition. Madam Speaker, I trust and hope that those few words on the immigration issue would provide a small piece of the necessary dialogue that I believe that we have to embrace to advance this. Because if we don't, this will continue to be an issue now, and it will be an issue in elections and parliaments to come. We have a duty, so the question is, what will this Parliament do, those of us who are here in the 50 years of independence? Madam Speaker, I turn now to the Fiscal Strategy Report. Madam Speaker, you know, I heard today, I guess the government continues, in our view, to want to continue to make excuses about where the country is. The truth is, Madam Speaker, what is real and what we say in here, what is real is what the Bahamian people are feeling. And right now, Madam Speaker, that they feel that everywhere they turn, they're being taxed, use that word very broadly, they're being taxed, that the burden is increasing on them every single day. Every single day. People are talking about the cost of food, the ability to provide for their families. And there is no doubt in the Bahamian people's minds that many of the decisions that are being made, and lack thereof, in terms of the government, is the reason why their lives are becoming more and more difficult, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we've heard through the debate this morning this notion of where our country was on September 16, 2021. The truth is, Madam Speaker, and we would have said this before, in 2021, when the Progressive Liberal Party came into government, the economy in 2021, at the end of 21, grew by 14%, Madam Speaker, by 14%. That does not happen from September to December. It does not happen from September to December, Madam Speaker. And I could recall, Madam Speaker, in October of 2021, just a month after the general election, the government announced that the country was $90 million ahead of revenue targets. And then in January, the government touted that we were $160 million above forecast. And so, Madam Speaker, it's not, even with that one, it's not magic. That didn't just happen. It happened because there was sound economic policy in place despite having to deal with a global pandemic. And the Free National Movement should be credited with that. Madam Speaker, they have acknowledged it too, In the mid-year budget debate, last year's mid-year budget debate, the government said, because we came into office in mid-September, much of the performance that we are reporting on relates to the activities of the previous administration. That said, there's not been enough time for the full effect of some of our decisions. To work through the economy, there are enough positive indications for us to be cautiously optimistic. Madam Speaker, so there's no doubt that this government was a beneficiary of a reignited economy and increased revenue. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I turn very quickly to the matter of BPL, and that's been a hot topic today in here. The truth is, Madam Speaker, while there would have been issues extending beyond this period as we go back, the reality of it is the government's position, or lack thereof, on the hedging and the delay, Madam Speaker, has made the problem worse. And as a result, you and I, but most importantly, our constituents all across the Commonwealth of the Bahamas are experiencing unbelievably high electricity bills. And the reality of it is, no matter how the government tries to duck it and dodge it, it is their responsibility why it has gone so high. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, I remember last year, the BPL was asked about this. BPL was asked about this, about the decision to delay, and here's what Mr. Cambridge said. When asked if the 7-month delay of the hike made the situation worse. This is The Guardian, article by Jasper Ward. The date on this was October 5th, 2022. When asked if the 7-month delay of the hike made the situation worse, Cambridge said, once you delay, you accumulate. So there was an accumulation of arrears, which we're now seeking to recover through the glide path strategy. So, Madam Speaker, the reporter was asking specifically about this government's delay. So there is no doubt that what the Bahamian people are experiencing and will be experiencing is due in part to a great measure to what the government has not done on the issue of BPL and the delay, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, the government, it's amazing to me. I think somebody said it earlier about the, sorry.
Beat me up today. Tell him your cousin you beat me up today. I said, tell him you beat me up today.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. And so, Mr. Deputy, let us look at what we talk about, the decisions that the government has made, and what is left for the Bahamian people. What is left for the Bahamian people, and what are they dealing with, and what they have to contend with? Mr. Deputy, the Bahamian people sees this government as a tax and spend government.
Facts.
Tax the people and spend. They see tax breaks for the rich. They know
Yachts.
yachts. They know persons on real estate over $2 million.
Yep.
This government felt, for whatever reason, that it was okay to give them a tax relief, but yet put 10%, 100% tax, 10% on bread basket items. Also, Mr. Deputy, what the Bahamian people are also complaining about as they continue to hurt is the fact that VAT was also on medication. And that's particularly something that's even more frustrating as now they're contending with this government's proposal as it relates to health care. That's going to cause their health costs to go up even more. Can you imagine those persons in our country that continue to have to deal with non-communicable diseases, and now we are making it more difficult? They see the increase in travel spending. The opposition, the leader of the opposition, and all of us have consistently said it isn't about the prime minister traveling, it's about the large delegations. So the Bahamian people see all the sacrifices they are being asked to make, but the government not making the sacrifices. On Grand Bahama, the people of Grand Bahama and the people in the Commonwealth of Bahamas was told that the deal was imminent, that the deal was coming. The government said that Grand Bahama, that what was happening would make Grand Bahama grand again. Grand again. No, we are no happier. We are no happier than when we all were on this side and provided accountability and a critique of what the Bahamian people were feeling. Okay? High electricity costs. Mr. Deputy, in the Eleuthera, the people are complaining. The water can't stay on, the light can't stay on. Like I said, the people can't flush their toilet. People can't. I talked to a lady in Eleuthera the other day. She said, let me go bathe, Mr. Cartwright, before the water go off.
And 2023?
Right? Yes.
Okay.
Right? So this is what the Bahamian people are experiencing, Mr. Deputy. More Bahamians are going hungry. The UN and local NGOs have talked about the fact that Bahamians are skipping meals. Not to mention, Mr. Deputy, the displacing of dorm residents. And when that happened in Abaco, people are still this day don't understand why the government did that. So much so that the members on the other side talked about it and felt that the government's actions were wrong.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Central and South Abaco.
Thank you. So, Deputy Speaker, I hear the good gentleman speaking about things that I don't believe he has a full comprehending or understanding of what's going on. He started speaking about the domes. I don't think he understood that the previous administration had left them, my fellow Abaconians, in these domes, and children playing in sewage in the afternoon because they never had the heart to cap off the septic tanks. So when it rained, it would come into the streets and children playing. Inside the domes was a health hazard, full of mold. Residents still to this day have health problems for what they left behind. Bahamian people. To this day, we are still trying to put back infrastructure that has been dilapidated and torn apart over decades of F&M representation in Abaco. They closed the sports facility saying we don't have any sports people in Abaco. I don't know what God to say about that. Deputy Speaker, he's speaking about domes. And I'm seeing and feeling and lived in real life neglect in Abaco, one of the strongest economies in the Bahamas, period. And he's speaking about domes that left people in health crisis. In health crisis. Left Abaco people to die. Charged them to get out after Dorian on Bahamas there. Hold on.
Let him finish. Let him finish, St. Barnabas.
When he speaks about
let him finish.
When he speaks about an increase of economy, well, let's take into account that they shut the whole economy down for COVID, locked everyone up, closed all the doors and whatnot, and so on and so forth. Of course, there would be an increase. What's the net? That's the gross. What's the net? And see the economy grow still. Tourism up. Good work being done. When you speak about VAT and tax to the Bahamian people,
St. Barnabas, I just want to get
increase in VAT.
Let him finish.
That was the previous administration. That was the F&M administration. 60% increase across the board in VAT. So when you talk about tax,
let him wrap it up.
when you talk about tax, talk about that. When you talk about domes, you talk about Abaco. All I see is neglect and no heart sitting in front of me.
Thank you, honorable member.
Mr. Deputy, I'd like to move a resolution for the House to continue beyond the 7 o'clock hour.
Is there a seconder? Second. It has been moved and seconded that the business of the House do continue beyond 7 p.m. today. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of the House will continue beyond the 7 o'clock hour. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Angliston.
Thank you. I'm wondering whether the member for St. Barnabas can lay that article that he referred to on the 5th of October by Jasper. I mean, can you do it now so we can review it?
Once I'm done, I have a couple more minutes. I'll lay it. I don't have no problem doing that.
Okay, good.
Thank you, honorable member. The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Barnabas.
Mr. Deputy, thank you very much. Mr. Deputy, I respect the members taking his opportunity to elaborate more other than what I talked about. Right? The simple fact is, Mr. Deputy, right? The simple fact is, Mr. Deputy, right? September 9th, this is the Guardian. This is Jasper Ward's day. Abaco MP, demolishing domes, the wrong course of action.
My. What's the name of the Abaco MP?
MP John Pinder II said the government's decisions to stop. Mr. Deputy, Deputy, can I finish this?
Let him just finish the article and then
right?
Central.
Said that the government's decision to start demolishing domes in Abaco yesterday, I quote, was the wrong course of action.
Yes. We agree with it.
And Mr. Deputy, I want to be sure to say this, I don't want the member, yes, and I will table this. I don't want the member to believe that this is about he and I. This is about a legitimate issue that he spoke to.
Yes.
Now, if he decides to backtrack on that, he has to deal with that with his constituents, right?
Okay.
All right?
Yeah,
Thank you,
the chair recognizes the honorable member for Central and South Abaco.
Thank you. Well, it's nice when the news and media consistently misinterprets what I was spoken about. That was taken out of context entirely. Something that wasn't of that. What it was speaking of was time. And transferring things in a due diligence way, which technocrats on the ground were a little haste. The fact of the matter is, it was I in collaboration with my good colleague that pushed forward in removing those domes so we could have the affordable housing program. And now, furthermore, putting up there, this good colleague has put forth a rent-to-own program. Revolutionary. Revolutionary. So the misleading of pretty much half of every time I speak to the media is a problem. They look for a piece of a 20-minute conversation to take 3 words considerably out of context.
Thank you, honorable member. The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Barnabas.
Well, then I can't tell the honorable member what he should do. But maybe he should take legal action because there was two more quotes. The other quote is, "I'm heartbroken that they went there this morning with a bulldozer." And then next again, I believe that was the wrong course of action, and I stand with my fellow Abaconians, and I will do whatever I can to help him. So the question is, the member that his constituents will ask now, are you still standing with us?
Yes.
Mr. Deputy, that's the point of order. No,
The,
Mr.
the
Deputy.
chair, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Central and South Abaco.
Thank you. My fellow Abaconians know I stand with them. That's why I stand here today, is to stand and speak for them. I've spent my entire life, 35 years of F&M representation in Central and South Abaco, ripping the island apart, dismantling it piece by piece. That is why I stand here today. Few did what I did after Dorian. I stand with my people then. I stand with my people now. I can stand with them tomorrow. And this administration, this Davis Cooper administration, has Central and South Abaco in their hearts.
Thank you, honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. Also, Mr. Deputy, there are members of the unions. There are members of the unions that have chided this government and said that this government has been guilty of union busting. And they have expressed that, Mr. Deputy, that this government is guilty of union busting. Not what I said. This is what the union said.
No, that's a cabinet minister protege behind me.
Madam Speaker, also the Bahamian people are concerned.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Yamakro.
Deputy, I know that being in opposition is tough, you know. And so you have to be reaching and reaching and reaching and reaching. And I just...
Honorable members, order.
It's almost to the annoyance of many, right? That we prepare for a debate, Mr. Deputy. We look at the content of the bills. We prepare, and we come here and we contribute to that particular bill. There is a narrative, and Sanans can be disrespectful because he has been like that for a very long time. He is my MP, so he could shout across and tell me speed it up, but Yamakro hears him. A lot of Yamakro knows. And I would say, no, this is specifically about what's going on. So the honorable thing to do in this House would be if you have a question on a particular topic and it's answered, that we can move past that. Over and over again, there is, after an answer has been given, legitimate facts, there is a reissuing of statements that have already been cleared up to an annoyance of intelligent people who watch these debates and the Bahamian public. The unions, the opposition, particularly St. Barnabas, who has made this statement over and over and over again, should be quite ashamed to even call union name in this place, in this honorable house, Mr. Deputy, because for him to talk about union busting yet again, since he has said that, more agreements have been signed, more raises given, more work benefits given, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. And the same quote that he claimed that he got from someone on the street, right? That they claimed they told him. That agreement has been signed. And the next agreement after that for that same union has been signed. So there is no union busting. And you should apologize to the unions. You should apologize. I'm on my feet. And you should apologize. You should apologize to the unions, the laborers in this country, the workers and the serious people who have kids to feed and send to school, who go out there and fight for what they want. You should apologize to them for the fact that you can sign but one agreement, when in 1 year we've done more than a dozen. So don't stand up in here and call the name of any union unless you apologize to them.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Mr. Deputy, the audacity, in my view, of the honorable member to ask me to apologize. He needs to apologize on behalf of his government for the amount of taxes and the amount of fees that they're putting on the Bahamian people, right? Putting on the Bahamian people. The Tribune article, December 1st, 2022, says, stop union busting. Now, he could get into all of those verbal flips and so forth. The union said, stop union busting. No, you, my brother, honorable member, you have to be daft. Because at the end of the day, I'm repeating what the union said. They said, stop union busting. That's what the member said, stop union busting.
Honorable members.
So, you would have had, Mr. Deputy, he would have had more credibility if he had stood up and said, he would have had more credibility if he had stood up and said, you know what, we signed these agreements, but honorable member, you are correct that the Public Workers Union did say we were guilty of union busting. Then you would have credibility. But he did not say that because he wants to cherry pick what he wants to cherry pick.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Yamakura.
Mr. Deputy, right? The member is being very offensive, right? And Rule 18 states, right? On his feet, he said, but it's if you're going to ride with it, I'll let you ride with that. But what we are saying, Mr. Deputy, is that the same union leader he is quoting has since signed 2 agreements that was left by their administration. They refused to sign. That same union leader was marching in the streets saying that they couldn't get, and they left government without signing that and many other agreements. In the space of 1 year, the public service have signed more than a dozen union agreements and preparing for the renewal of those agreements. So again, every time he comes up, and we can do this all day because you are misleading. You are playing with the Bahamian people emotion. The workers of this country.
Honorable members.
The workers of this country.
The chair recognizes.
I'm on my feet.
Let him finish. The chair recognizes Honorable Member for Yamakura.
It is misleading. It is misleading. It's an untruth. And if you're owning that statement to say that the government is guilty of union busting, right, then own the statement because you are absolutely wrong. and you owe the workers of this country an apology. You've been running through back doors and all up and down Bay Street trying to hide from union leaders, and you have the heart to come and talk, here and talk about union busting. You all have no credibility when it comes to labor in this country.
Thank you, honorable member. The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Barnabas.
Mr. Deputy, my good brother.
Honorable members, order.
Honorable member from Yamacraw.
Honorable members, order.
Honorable member from Yamacraw, right?
Hold the clock, hold the clock, hold the clock, please, please.
Don't need a SWAT team to come in the house. Police escort you to work.
Mr. Deputy, the good member from Yamacraw, right?
Huh?
A good speech ain't gonna take the place of what the Bahamian people are feeling. Yes. So a good speech ain't gonna do that. So he can try that all he want. That's what the union said, and that's what I've conveyed to this House, Mr. Deputy. All right, okay? Mr. Deputy, this tax and spend government, Mr. Deputy, this tax and spend government hurting the economy and the Bahamian people. As I said, the recent announcement by government of a tax proposal that will make health care more expensive for Bahamians and limit access to affordable health care has justifiably angered the Bahamian people. The government promised to lower the cost of health care for Bahamians in their blueprint for change. With this decision, the Bahamian people will now pay more to keep themselves and their loved ones healthy. The poor, the elderly, and many of our fellow Bahamians battling with non-communicable diseases will be further burdened financially. Madam Speaker, as I said, Mr. Deputy, as I said earlier, this is after they put VAT back on medication. Back on medication, Mr. Deputy. Mr. Deputy, the Bahamian people have been shouting their dissatisfaction with the tax and spend government that continues to reach into their pockets and choke them economically. They are pussing, as my constituents say. They are hurting. They believe that the government, again, is asking them to do so much, but yet the government doesn't want to make sacrifices. They are taxing the Bahamian people and bringing the struggling families to their knees. How much do they expect the Bahamian people to bear? Since coming to office, the government has focused less on innovative plans and policies to spur economic growth and ensure real prosperity, but rather, they have relied on increasing government fees and overtaxing the Bahamian people. Every other policy, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy, can I have 2 more minutes, please? Thank you.
Yeah, you can wrap up.
Thank you. Every other policy, every other announcement involves putting another burden on the backs of the Bahamian people. Mr. Deputy, the reality of it is, no matter how the government tries, the Bahamian people don't see it. They don't believe what the government is telling them because what they are doing, they are feeling what the government is doing to them, Mr. Deputy. In fact, Mr. Deputy, this fiscal strategy report lacks any strategy on many of the fundamental things that the Bahamian people were hoping for. Yes. There's no strategy for reduction in spending, just tax and spend. There's no strategy to create new revenue sources, just tax and spend. There is no real strategy on job creation, just tax and spend. And there's no real strategy on growing the economy, just tax and spend. So on behalf of the Bahamian people, we ask the government to stop taxing and hurting Bahamian families. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy.
Thank you, honorable member. The chair recognizes